And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, 4th of July edition, if that matters at all. 4th of July edition. Of course, you can join the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prep University, respectively, at Coffee Talk Live and at Coffee Talk no, at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. It's too many ats. And you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat. That's where the chat is, on X. You can also find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. As I am joined by two felines in the room today. Miss Kitty, for those of you who can see, is sitting in the chair behind me, and Granny Smith is here as well. Granny Smith is here as well as we get ready to dive into what's going on in the world today and have a little bit of discussion about the topic. And I do try to read through as many comments as is reasonable. And I'll say hello to some of the people that have chimed in so far. See, Tuck is here. Helter is here. Rodney, who just realized it's Independence Day. Well, not like I'm going to be doing anything. I'm just going to sit here. Dragon is here. Dragon says a bunch of people are under the impression they are free when celebrating July the 4th, when nothing could be further from the truth. Oh, don't get me started. Urban Angst is here. Brian is here. As well as Armored Ghost has chosen to say hello. And a bunch of people saying happy 4th of July. Yeah, it is very warm out here, actually. Very warm out here. Here's an interesting alert. I get tormented by ScrewTube constantly. I get tormented by ScrewTube constantly. I got two alerts today. Warning me that other channels may be using my content. Other channels, they want me to check out some channels that may be hijacking some of my content. It's like, who wants to steal my content? I'm in so much trouble with ScrewTube as it is. I hope they get buried too. And Peter says, do the cats get on camera? Sometimes. Sometimes I can collect them up and put them up in front of the camera, let people see them. Not Miss Kitty, though, because she's very fearful about being handled. I have to be very careful with her. She's been through a lot, so she gets scared easily. And Fluke Man is here. Granny Smith, if she lets me, I might pick her up here in a little bit. But yeah, I can. Anyways, I thought that was interesting today. I was like, who's swiping my content? Who's copying me and using my stuff? I just, if they get exposed, do I get a check? Not bloody likely. I probably won't see a dime for the use of the footage. And Brian says they were stealing the content. Oh, sure. I bet. I don't know. I don't think it was you, Brian. Anyways, as we get ready to dive off into the realm of the ridiculous and take a look at what's going on in the world today, naturally, the big one in the media, the last couple of weeks, really, it's been pouring on since the debate, and that is dear old, sweet old, lovable old, reliable old, honest old Uncle Joe. He knows how to tell the truth. He said so. He said so in North Carolina in the speech. He read it off the teleprompter, so it must be true. I know how to tell the truth. I know the difference between right and wrong. And I know how to do the job. Technically, all of that is true. Urban says there's no such thing as bad publicity, even for YouTube channels. Yeah, but they have to know it was mine in the first place instead of just hijacking content. Anyways, this comes from Vox. That's the news article. Leaks about Joe Biden are coming fast and furious. Here he is. There's old Joe looking confused. That picture was taken at the debate, I believe. Old Joe looking confused. Are you surprised? But yeah, now that the cat's out of the bag, everybody's talking about it. Yeah, the guy's been off of it for years. I talked about this yesterday. He hasn't been right since the 80s, since he had his brain surgeries. I can't remember if it was the first or the second surgery in 1988, but the year 1988 sticks in my mind. One of his aneurysm surgeries. But ever since then, he has not been right. He says weird stuff. He smells people's hair. He touches people inappropriately. All that weird stuff started after the brain surgeries. So this is somebody who should have retired then. Okay. And they kept him on as senator. They pushed him as vice president and they pushed him as president. And something's been wrong for decades. Okay. Something's been wrong with him as long as most people that might have voted for him have been alive. As President Joe Biden struggles to survive the political crisis that has engulfed his campaign, he's faced two worsening trends in recent days. First, major media outlets have published several new stories raising tough questions about Biden's age and governing capacity. The floodgates for leaks have opened. Reporters are intently scrutinizing the issue, and the president is no longer getting the benefit of the doubt. Did he ever? Or did the media just keep telling us that it was our imagination? Second, a few Democratic elected officials have finally begun to openly discuss the prospect that Biden could leave the ticket, and some have outright called on him to do so. I've been seeing a lot of that. There's been a lot of speculation about replacing him. The bulk of the Democratic Party for now is still behind Biden. Yeah, they're hiding back there. And he maintained Wednesday that he's staying in the race. But anxious deliberations within the party about what to do are continuing, particularly in the wake of new polling showing Donald Trump expanding his lead. I don't trust polling. You all know that. Polling, it's unreliable because it's not honestly done. So I'd like to hear that the polls say Trump is ahead, but, you know, again, you can't trust the polls. You can't interview 700 people that you handpicked and then tell me that represents everyone in the country. I'm just not buying it. Before the debate, major media outlets like the New York Times and Wall Street Journal would intermittently report on the question of Biden's age and health, collecting accounts of what the president is like behind closed doors from aides and others who met with him privately. Often such reports turned up a mixed picture, finding that Biden sometimes had mix-ups and verbal flubs and sometimes appeared fully on the job. Always, Democrats responded to these reports with intense criticism. Of course they did. A brutal New York Times story released Tuesday dug into what the paper calls Biden's lapses, which their sources claim to have recently grown more frequent, more pronounced, and more worrisome. In such lapses, the Time reporter's sources claim that Biden would sometimes appear listless, lose the thread of conversation, or react with a blank stare of confusion. At other points, they say Biden would appear perfectly on top of his game. Yeah, that's that's just pandering. He's not on top of anything. Axios, Alex Thompson reported aides believed, and we read this yesterday, Biden was dependably engaged between the hours of 10 and 4, but that outside of those hours, Biden was more likely to have verbal miscues and become fatigued. And we talked about that as well. How that makes sense to me, because you figure if at 10 o'clock he's really alert, that means that at 9 he took his meds and had breakfast. Then around lunchtime, probably 2 p.m., I'm guessing 1 or 2 p.m., maybe he has lunch, another round of meds, and then another meal. But that'll make you tired. And that's been my experience in mental health. We get them up, they take their pills, they eat their breakfast, and they're good to go for a while. But then when they take their next round of meds and have their lunch, then everybody starts getting sleepy because all that medication's tough to digest. So that doesn't surprise me at all, and that makes a lot of sense right there, actually. Merv says, I think he had his creepy problems long before he started with the babysitter. Yeah, very likely. But after the brain surgeries, he couldn't hide it anymore. He could no longer curb the behaviors, if that makes sense. Rodney says Sleepy Creepy Joe is just a sock puppet for the establishment, has been since 1988, since long before that, voluntarily, I imagine. Peter says, spoke to a big Democrat supporter who is also a well-known individual. They had no idea Joe has had 2 open brain surgeries. Yeah, he has. And you can find that on, you can punch that up on Google or Bing or whatever you're using, and you'll find it. 2 aneurysm surgeries, I believe. Monkey says all it took was the debate to make people question if Biden can even continue, yet it looks like 3 to 4 years. It took them 3 to 4 years now to realize Biden is bad. And hello. Yeah, because Monkey is here. Glad you could join us, Monkey. As I catch up a couple more comments here. Urban said first it was The Emperor Has No Clothes. Now comes the sequel, The Emperor Has No Brain. And Blip is here. Wants coffee. Coffee would be nice. Nice cup of coffee. Actually, I hadn't had this morning was the first time I've had coffee in almost a week. I hadn't had any. I'd just been drinking regular sweet tea. It's a southern thing. Urban says pharma puppet, literally controlled by engineered chemical formulas. But yeah, that 10 to 4, and when I read that article yesterday, that really stood out for me. I highlighted right there where it says 10 to 4. I know you can't see it very well. That really stood out for me because of my experience working in mental health. I was like, that makes sense. He's good until he has his second round, and it's just too much for his system, and it starts making him tired because digesting all those pills is tough. Really. That made a lot of sense to me. Also, what he claimed about how when he quoted in North Carolina, I know how to tell the truth. I know the difference between right and wrong. I know how to do the job. I know how to get things done. All technically true, but doesn't mean it's ethically sound. It doesn't mean he's going to do it. He knows how to tell the truth. Doesn't mean he does. He knows the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't mean he'll choose right. He knows how to do the job. Doesn't mean he's doing it. So on and so forth. Armored Ghost said maybe no one in charge at the White House and its competing Democrat factions doing whatever they can when they can. That's what Vivek Ramaswamy was suggesting, that there's just rooms full of bureaucrats, all these sub-governments that are running everything. And H12 says JB knows how to tell the truth. He tells it in such a way that you think it's a joke. Yeah. No, he tells you he's not kidding. Not kidding. Not a joke. My grandfather, eaten by cannibals. Or was it his uncle? Somebody was eaten by cannibals. And then of course, that's going to get researched. And the official report said that, no, that is not what happened at all. He was not eaten by cannibals in Guam, dude. What is your problem? What is your problem? But yeah, this guy can't stay out of trouble now because the floodgates have been opened for the press to just relentlessly attack this guy instead of trying to cover for him all the time, which they have been doing for quite some time. They've been covering for him for quite a while because that's what the media does. The media has protecting him. The media has been protecting old Joe. And Blip says Biden pulled off a Jerry hat trick at the debate. Wah, wah. Little play on words. And Adrian has joined us. And Tuck says it was his uncle's grandfather. Okay, I don't know who the hell it was. I just know he said somebody got eaten by cannibals. And that turned out to be another falsehood, something that he made up. Some crazy story that he probably used to tell his friends in high school. But anyways, and Spectre is here, says happy 4th. Yeah, 4th of July edition, kind of, if you want to call it that. As we jump around to a New York Post article here really quickly, having a hard time with it because it keeps wanting to play a video clip. You know what a nightmare that is with Restream. So New York Post article, Biden blasted for walking out before the end of Medal of Honor ceremony, and it shows a lack of respect, and I actually got the video queued up here. I guess he just wrapped things up and bolted. Oh no, this is an old one. Because this happened again, didn't it? This is an old one. I was looking that up. I was looking it up because there was another one. He did it again recently, didn't he? And he was presenting medals to. They showed me an older article. That's not the one that I had queued up. The gave posthumously 2 medals to people from the Civil War, and I'm like, isn't that a little late? Isn't that a little late? Does it matter now? Posthumously giving medals to people? I mean, that's really digging, isn't it? And Hunter Biden was there, and the media was whining about that. Media was whining about that as well. I don't think it matters if Hunter Biden showed up or not. It's not like he's ever going to do anything in politics again. The guy, whatever career he had, is pretty much washed up, and the paintings aren't going to sell once Joe's out of office. He was making a lot of money on those paintings. It's money laundering, I tell you what. It's got to be. It's got to be money laundering. Tuck says he remembers when Biden fought the Viet Cong in Thailand aboard the helicarrier. Such valiant, brave behavior. I know. He landed on the beaches in Normandy, in the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. that's what happened. He was there. I'll tell you what. Who was it? Mel Brooks, the 2,000-year-old man? Was that Mel Brooks, the 2,000-year-old man? He's been around. I was there when they crucified Jesus. And I know I'm awful. Moki is here. Thanks for joining us today, Moki. As we shift gears, yeah, that was an older article. That's not the one I was looking for. I was looking for the recent one when because they gave 2 medals to people from the Civil War, and I'm like, who cares about that now? Who cares about that now? I'm sure there's somebody who claim they care, some descendant, some great grandchild. In a little bit, Moki, because you see, Moki wants to see the cat. That's Miss Kitty back there. I'm not picking her up because she'll get upset. She'll get scared. But I can get Granny Smith, who's sitting in the corner, in a little bit. I might can get Granny Smith. But that makes me think of, oh God, what was his name? What was the name of trying to remember the Olympic medalist, Jim Thorpe, right? I want to say it's Jim Thorpe. One of the original founders of the NFL, big Olympic champion, and so on. And they took his medals away. The Olympic Committee rescinded his medals. They took them back because they claimed that while he was working for some supermarket, if I remember the story correctly, he played on the supermarket's softball team or baseball team because, they used to have a lot of sandlot teams back in the day. And because the supermarket let him stay in a room above the market, that was technically being a professional athlete, which was not allowed in the Olympics. Now professional athletes can be in the Olympics ever since the early 90s, which started with the Dream Team, when real basketball players who could beat the shit out of any modern players went all over the world and beat the hell out of everybody by 50 plus points. The original Dream Team in the Summer Olympics way back in the early 90s. Because now it's fine for a professional to be in the Olympics, but back then you could not have ever earned a dime or been given anything to be in the Olympics. You had to have an amateur status. So they claimed that was professional status because they let him stay in the room in the supermarket, and he had his medals revoked. And then God, in the late 80s, I think, someone was researching Jim Thorpe's life and checked through the archives of the Olympic Committee and discovered that the statute of limitations had actually expired on their revoking his medals. So they had no legal recourse to do so. And when he presented that, the family sued and got the medals given back. The Olympic Committee surrendered them back. They still had them. And I'm like, that's cute, but what does that mean now? Tuck says the Olympics are a mountain of corruption. Apparently they were in the 30s too. I think that was in like the 1920s or 1930s. That's way back. And Monkey confirms that was Mel Brooks, a 2,000-year-old man. Rodney says the timing of the debate when JV would be tired and the media turnaround makes me suspect the Democrats may indeed have a plan to swap him out with someone. Yeah, because if that's the case, they should have set him up a lot earlier. They should have set him up a lot earlier, probably before noon, before he has lunch. And H12 says, did you get what I sent to you yesterday? You sent something yesterday? Explain. Did you send something to me yesterday? Let me know or clarify. As I shift around, it's funny enough that you would bring that up. You would bring that up because here's your next topic. They're blowing this up quite a bit, and this is Ipsos. Only Michelle Obama bests Trump as an alternative to Biden in 2024. They've been doing a lot of debates on this. They're doing a lot of debating about this. It says, following the first 2024 presidential debate, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump remain in a dead heat for the November election in hypothetical matchups with Democratic candidates other than Biden. Former First Lady Michelle Obama is the only hypothetical candidate to definitively defeat Trump in this poll. Michelle Obama also tops the charts in favorably among registered voters, with Trump and Biden trailing her by more than 10 percentage points each. When asked whether Trump or Biden should drop out of the race following the debate, nearly 3 in 5 agree for Biden, and just under half say the same about Trump. So they're alluding to, and a lot of people have been doing this in the media, alluding to Michelle Obama running, even though Michelle says that she doesn't want to run, doesn't mean that's true, because that comes up all the time. Well, Michelle said that she won't. Yeah, people say a lot of things. People say a lot of things. And I'm going to tell you right now, I hate this kind of bullshit with these polls. Moki says, Big Mike for office. There you are. Big Mike for office. But this is why this is a load of crap. As we get down here, normally I have to hunt these down, the proper statistics, but I'm going to open it up for you down here because they actually give you the data. The poll is based on a representative sample of 1,070 U.S. residents aged 18 or older, of which only 892 apparently are registered voters. So they interviewed 1,070 people, but then they're going to throw these articles out based on that sample, telling us that Michelle could beat Trump. And people will read that and they'll believe it because they're not going to bother to research the data. So you cherry picked 1,070 people. You cherry picked 1,070 people to give the result you want. That's how polling works. Again, I worked briefly for a polling center in the early 90s, just a few months. I wasn't there long. They pick those people out. They weed them out to get, because they're paid to get a certain result more so than to get an organic poll or true numbers. So you cherry picked 1,070 people, and I'm supposed to believe from that I'm supposed to believe from that Michelle Obama would beat people in the polls. Moki says Russians are not allowed in the Olympics anymore. It's not the first time. And Rodney says, Michelle Obama, seriously, who did they poll the deepest blue cities and blue states? Probably would not surprise me. And Helda says, this is name recognition poll at this point. Roll out any alternative, give them a few weeks, and I bet they outperform Joe easily. Yeah, where's Billy Crystal? I want Billy Crystal on there. Billy Crystal for president. Rob Van Winkle for president. If he has a problem, if you have a problem, he'll solve it. Rob Van Winkle for president. Oh my God. Yeah, follow up on that. Who said that to me earlier? H12. Did you get what I sent to you yesterday? Are you talking about the coins or something else? Because I showed yesterday that I received coins from Bo, if you're Bo, and I did showcase that yesterday. But if you did something else, I'm not aware of it. Fluke Man says in a few decades, sport organizers will take all the meds from trans women but sue to get them back because the statute of limitations will expire. But these kind of polls are a load of crap. H12 says cat food and litter from Walmart. I think I saw a comment about that. You'll have to elaborate. I don't know where to find that. Is it coming from Walmart? Am I going to Walmart? What am I doing? You'll have to help me understand there, H12. Do I have to go to a Walmart? A pickup. Which Walmart? And under what name? Under what name? Because they're very strict on pickups. I got, if the name's not correct, they'll give you a hard time because someone tried that once before. Oh, Tuck got it. POTUS baby. Tuck figured it out. Tuck figured it out. I'll give you your next candidate. I'm going to give you your next presidential candidate, presidential elect Rob Van Winkle. Everybody? President-elect Rob Van Winkle. I'd vote for him. I would vote for him. Ice Baby. That's right. Vanilla Ice is who we're talking about here. I'll go ahead and pull that up. Because you may as well see it since I said it. There you go. Your next candidate for president. I give you Vanilla Ice. If you have a problem, he'll solve it. He'll solve it. Peter says they use natural wood pellets for cat litter. The type used in barbecue. Most cats' litter is toxic. And Fluke Man says the 1,070 people are Harvard students. I can't tell you what a woman is, but believes who would be a better president to leave 300 million people. Unbelievable. Yes, indeed. Yeah, tell me, H12. Yeah, it's okay that they wouldn't deliver. You got to tell me what Walmart and what name was used so that I can go and get it or try to. And I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate it. I just got to get that ironed out. But there you go, President-elect Rob Van Winkle, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. I'll do you one better. I know while I'm sitting here hamming it up. While I'm sitting here just messing around with people, I'll give you one better. You won't like this one as much. If I can get it to work. If I can get it to work. Hold on a second. Technical difficulties. Please stand by. Here we go. I think this is it. I think this is it. Would you vote for this one? I bet you won't. There you are. No, it didn't work. Something went wrong with it. No, there we are. There you are, everybody. That is that's a photo that he took when he received his citizenship officially. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger, dressed like Uncle Sam practically. Screw your freedom. Screw your freedom. Get the shot. You're endangering everyone. Fluke Man wants to know if I need a reference number. I'm not sure. I might. Because I did pick up from Walmart like that once before with something that someone had sent to me, and it was a headache. They gave me a really hard time. They gave up eventually, but they gave me a hard time. Simon says that the Democrats are in charge of counting the votes. They run a can of beans and win. Yeah, and again, it's not about the popular vote. It comes down to the Electoral College, ultimately. It does. Armored says Vanilla Ice and Taylor Swift. Oh no, not Taylor Swift. Anybody but that, please. Anybody but that. You guys are just being silly now. Okay. And H12 says your name or your wife. I need to know which Walmart, though. I need to know which one so that I can get to the correct one as we get around here. This is another thing that's been coming up a lot, the Agenda 2025. And it's a huge problem, agenda problem perceived, and I had to go all the way to the BBC to find anybody even willing to part way describe what the hell Agenda 2025 is. All people do is whine about it, and it's am I still here? I got an orange warning from Restream. I don't know if I'm still on or not. It's a 900-page document that lays out some of the plans. For Trump. At which point he assumes his Project 2025 Trump presidency wish list explained. And I looked through this, and it doesn't sound like it's that bad, like how a lot of celebrities and people are screaming about it. That one rapper, or whoever the hell she is, was crying about it, saying they're bringing the draft back. They're going to put all your young men to war. And I'm like, bringing the draft back? The draft never left. It's called selective service. Just because they're not pulling you because we're not at war right now doesn't mean it won't happen as soon as there is wartime. That's why there's selective service. And the only thing that's changed with selective service since like World War II is that now they're automatically registering young men when they turn 18, provided they don't have a medical condition. And that happened under the Biden administration. So according to this, it says the blueprint called Project 2025 and produced by the Conservative Heritage Foundation is one of several think tank proposals for Trump's platform. Over more than 900 pages, it calls for sacking thousands of civil servants, expanding the power of the president, dismantling the Department of Education and other federal agencies, and sweeping tax cuts. So it's basically the same thing that the Democrats did when they took power, only instead of sweeping tax cuts, they increased them. The Heritage Foundation unveiled its agenda in April last year, and liberal opposition ramped up as former President Trump has taken a lead in polls after President Biden's poor debate performance. On Wednesday, Heritage President Kevin Roberts raised the prospect of political violence during a podcast interview. Not true. Now, they say this, but he said he doesn't want violence. Quote, "We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be," Mr. Roberts told the War Room podcast founded by Trump's advisor, Steve Bannon. So basically, he's saying that the only way that they foresee there being any kind of violence is if the opposition ramps things up, not that they are promoting violence in any way. The remarks prompted pushback from the Biden campaign, which accused Trump and his allies of dreaming of a violent revolution to destroy the very ideas of America. The very ideas of America have already been destroyed. The comments have renewed attention on the Project 2025 documents. It doesn't even really say that this has anything to do with Trump, just that an agency that supports Trump wrote this up. It is common for Washington, D.C. think tanks to propose policy wish lists for a potential government in waiting. The Liberal Center for American Progress, for example, was dubbed Barack Obama's idea factory during his presidency. But Democrats have taken aim at the Heritage paper, seeking to get campaign value out of some of its more drastic measures. Where am I here? Armored Ghost says if another 2 a.m. shenanigan happens, will there be riots November 6th instead of January 6th? It wouldn't surprise me. And H12 says don't know about a number. I'll look and see. The Walmart is local. You mean the same as the P.O. box, the Lithonia Walmart? The one in Lithonia, H12? I don't mean to be a pest. I just want to make sure I don't screw it up. Oh my God. And Peter says Project 2025 has nothing to do with Trump. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was alluding to. Just because the Heritage Foundation wrote this mess up doesn't mean it has anything to do with Trump at all. But they're saying it does. In the media, they're saying it does. Celebrities are saying it does. Celebrities are saying that that they're asking for violence, which the guy just said he doesn't want that. It calls for it says right here, sacking thousands or sacking thousands of civil servants, expanding the power of the president, dismantling the Department of Education and other federal agencies. That happens every time a president takes office. They get rid of any potential troublemakers or anybody who is hardcore dedicated to the previous administration that might cause problems or might sabotage things. That's just typical policy. It happens in companies too. Company takes over, gets rid of a bunch of CEOs, fires district managers and such because they're afraid they're going to sabotage things, because they often do. That's just the truth of it. And sweeping tax cuts, again, everything that they're calling for here has been done by the Biden administration, by every administration, except for the tax cuts. Usually they increase them. And as was pointed out, it doesn't necessarily imply that Trump has anything to do with the document or would back it up. And Peter says, unfortunately, Trump didn't clear house in 2017. Flukeman is picking on me here. He says you could go to every Walmart store in your city or county if you and your wife like to go for a sunny afternoon drive. Oh my God. No way. No way. I don't want to run around to all the Walmarts. There was a guy, you know what that makes me think of? There was a guy some years ago that was doing this thing where he wanted to go to every Starbucks in the country. He was going to drive from one Starbucks to the next all across America. I don't know if he ever finished it. He was in the process of doing it, but I don't know if he ever finished that. It seems impractical. And with them opening new ones, I don't know how long it would take. It'd take you like a decade to get that done. You know what I mean? How many are just in your city? It's like going to every McDonald's in the United States. That would take forever. That would take absolutely forever. It's crazy. San Fernandino Valley Sun. The San Fernando. I'm thinking of the wrong place. San Fernando Valley Sun newspaper. This is their article. U.S. Supreme Court okays ban on homeless sleeping outdoors in public spaces. Yeah, because that is a problem. That is a problem. This is a problem when people can just pitch tent on a curbside anywhere and live. In response to the U.S. Supreme Court's June 28th ruling that cities can enforce bans on homeless people sleeping on sidewalks and other public outdoor spaces, representatives of local social service agencies that serve the unhoused, I hate that term, unhoused, they're homeless by hook or by crook, by accident or by choice. They are homeless, not unhoused. Many of those people, you can't put them somewhere. They don't want to go. Okay? Back to the article. Expressed disappointment about the decision. I bet they did. Following the news of the Supreme Court decision, which was announced the same day, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority released the results of the year's Greater LA homeless count, which show a slight downward trend for the first time in 6 years. The LASHA CEO Dr. Lisa Adams Kellum said, "We do not agree with criminalizing homelessness." Well, it is illegal. Technically, it's illegal in pretty much every state to be homeless because most of the things that you do infringe upon either public or private property. In the wake of the Grant Pass decision, it will be up to every city in the county of Los Angeles and the Board of Supervisors to decide how they move forward. LASHA will stay focused on ending unsheltered homelessness and speeding up how quickly people move into permanent housing, said Kellum in a statement. It won't work. I can go on and on about that. We believe in housing and services, not arrests. Well, if you arrest them, they are being housed and serviced. So just saying. The court, and usually they don't bother to arrest them, they just kind of move them around. The court's 6-3 decision reversed, a 2018 ruling by San Francisco Appeals Court, which found that bans on sleeping outdoors in public spaces violates the Eighth Amendment of people in areas where there are not enough shelter beds. Last week's decision by the Supreme Court's majority ruled that the Eighth Amendment does not apply to outdoor sleeping bans. Translation, dude, you can't just hang out anywhere. Homelessness is complex. Its causes are many. That's true, according to Justice Neil Gorsuch, who wrote for the majority. A handful of federal judges cannot begin to match the collective wisdom the American people possess in deciding how best to handle a pressing social question like homelessness. Excuse me, though. Isn't that the function of the Supreme Court? Because if 5 out of 9 people make a decision in the Supreme Court, it affects the entire country. It could be a decision big enough that it affects the whole planet, because the United States is a big enough country that what we do have ramifications all over the world. Okay? So if you're going to admit that the judges of the Supreme Court cannot begin to match the collective wisdom of the American people, then what are you doing? Why is there a Supreme Court? Because there are times where you make decisions that really don't fit the letter of the law. They really don't. And you do impose federal pressure over states, which is something the federal government's supposed to stray away from. It says the majority focuses almost exclusively on the needs of local governments and leaves the most vulnerable in our society with an impossible choice: either stay awake or be arrested. That's not true. That's not true. Um, Again, they're not going to get arrested. H12 says it's at Lithonia. Okay, I know where that is. Thank you, H12. I will look into that. Again, sorry for the confusion. I just want to make sure I don't make a mistake. And I really appreciate it. I really do. And Peter says, so they put all the illegal aliens in hotels, but make it illegal for Americans to live on the streets. Exactly. Instead of putting them in hotels, but they don't want to put them in hotels because history has taught people who deal with the homeless, they will destroy whatever you put them in. You put them in a shelter, they'll destroy it. You put them in a hotel, they'll destroy it. You built them a little tent city, they'll destroy it. What do you think happens to housing projects? The people ruin them. You're taking them out of their element. And it's hard for people to understand that. I've talked about it a lot. I've talked about that a lot. But you've got different classifications of homeless people. And only a small fraction of them are down on my luck, and if I get a break, I'll do good kind of people. Even though the media makes you think that's all of them, it's a lie. Many of them are addicts who will destroy any property you put them in. Many of them are homeless by choice. They like living out there. They just want to be out there. And they're not going to do right either, and they're not going to cooperate with anything. People that are hiding, criminals that don't want to get caught, they're on the lam, as it were. They don't want to cooperate either because they don't want to follow rules and they don't want anybody checking their ID or finding out who they are if they don't have one. Some of them are mentally ill and they can't be unattended either. You can't put them in you can't put them up without being constantly monitored. They have to be secured. These are people that should be probably in a mental health facility, but because of the way the laws changed, the state can't hold on to them anymore. A lot of laws changed in the 80s, and these people, 80s and early 90s, and they turned people out of these mental institutions, and they went right off their meds and went bonkers and committed suicide or hurt people or other terrible things happened to them. There are people that ought to be locked up. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. They're dangerous to themselves or other people. And you can't just take them and throw them into housing either. It doesn't work. Urban says they don't want to criminalize homelessness because they can't weaponize homelessness. And homelessness is a big business. There is a homelessness industrial complex as well. Absolutely. And Peter says the homeless problem is mostly a mental health problem. A lot of it is, because you can count people who are addicts as mentally challenged as well. And Moki says it sounds like we need to reopen the mental institutions. Yeah, I agree. And I have experience again in mental health as well. And they're dangerous. Some of the people I was working with are freaking dangerous, a lot of them. They're dangerous. And to themselves as well. And Dilo is here, and he says, thumbs up, everybody. Yes, please. Yes, please, indeed. And H12 says, bucket of litter bag or cat food. Much appreciated, H12, and I'll get out there as soon as I can. It means a lot. It helps. It really does, especially taking care of 20 felines right now. And we're working on, again, getting them adopted. A little girl will be the first one that we move, and we have some kittens that are getting ready, but little girl is ready. And so hopefully we can find her a good home soon. Tuck says they've been homeless. If you're not determined enough, you can go nuts even if you started sane. I can see that. I can see that. Absolutely. I can see that. As and that ties in with this next little piece here from Green Building Elements, an article from Green Building Elements. That's a mouthful. Squatting. Brian says, how hard is it to escape a mental institution? Damn near impossible. It's not like Arkham Asylum where the Joker gets out every other day. It's extremely difficult to get out of those places. And then if you did, it wouldn't be that hard to find somebody who did. And H12 says, thanks, wish I had paid better attention. You're fine, H12. You're fine. You didn't do anything wrong. You're being very helpful, actually. I appreciate it. But some of those people, like I said, they really belong there. One guy in particular, I might have mentioned this before, the guy with the cut on his finger, he cut himself somehow, but he couldn't leave it alone. And it's like, what are you doing? And he's bleeding, and he kept trying to peel it open. He kept trying to open it. And so we bandaged it, and he'd take the bandage off, and he'd start picking at it again. He's bleeding everywhere. You know, he turned like a paper cut into like a big major thing. We had to wrap up his entire hand to keep him from touching it. And, I thought about that a lot because I'm like, damn, if we were out in the street, if you just cut him loose, somebody like him, and he cut himself somewhere, in theory, he could bleed to death from a paper cut because he won't leave it alone, and it'll keep leaking, keep leaking, keep leaking. A person like that doesn't need to be running around. Okay? Oh, but you're violating his rights by keeping him locked up. He's locked up for a reason, trust me. These people don't need to be out there. They'll hurt themselves or somebody else. I have people I worked with that are very violent. But no, Brian, it's very difficult for them to get out of those facilities. I could, and if they did, they can't get far. They don't know where they are anyways. They don't know where they're going. It's not like when Jason escaped from the mental institution. Or was it? No, not Jason. It was Michael Myers, right? Tuck says facilities for the mentally ill and facilities for the crippled would go a long way towards reducing homeless numbers. That is correct. That would cut their numbers by probably half if you also lumped in people who were serious addicts, because they need to be locked away to break the habit. They need to be locked up to break that habit, because you can't, you could force them to go to rehab if they get arrested, but they'll just bullshit their way through it and go right back out and use. I went through way too much of that when I worked for juvenile justice. They bullshit their way through the programs, and they'll cheat at the first opportunity, and then they'll end up right back in jail again and in rehab again. I worked with kids who were in rehab like a dozen or more times easily, and they could ace the programs because they know what to do. They know what to do. But that ties in with this article. It says squatting could become a felony in Ohio. Tenants' rights groups say it criminalizes homelessness, and we keep talking about this. A proposed bill in Ohio is stirring significant controversy. It aims to make squatting a misdemeanor and impose more severe penalties for substantial property damage. The bill has sparked a heated debate between landlords who support it and tenants' rights groups who argue it unfairly targets vulnerable populations. Well, if you're squatting, you're not homeless, are you? But you are infringing upon someone else. It isn't right to just break into someone's property and just live there and refuse to leave. And the laws need to be shifted to prevent that, because they have no respect for the property. They destroy it. They absolutely destroy it. And I've seen that too. That's why also it emphasized right there that to impose more severe penalties for substantial property damage, because they'll damage it beyond repair. They'll destroy it to the point where you're better off just pulling the building down or pulling the house down. It goes on to say, in a video by Real Estate Investing and Landlord News, host Tony discusses a landlord from Toledo, Jeff Savage, who has been battling squatters for 25 days. Savage, the owner of Toledo Transformation and more than 500 properties across the country, discovered squatters living in one of his recently vacated properties. Despite having clear ownership, Savage was told by the police that he would need to go through the lengthy civil eviction process. Tony expresses frustration, arguing that landlords should not have to endure such delays when dealing with individuals illegally occupying property. It's trespassing, and even a misdemeanor is a slap on the wrist for something like that. H12 says, Fortune smiled on me, thought I'd share the sunbeam. Well, I appreciate it, H12. I really do. Let me see here. I'll try to catch up a couple more. Tuck says there's body cam footage of a homeless addict with a protruding broken arm bone. It was badly infected and rotting. He refused medical help and died a couple of days after that. Yeah, that's why people like that need to be secured. Unless you're Vlad Temps. Who knows what Vlad Temps did with the homeless population? The only man in human history to successfully deal with the homeless population. Who knows what Vlad Temps did? Fluke Man says a 17-year-old homeless kid on British television. I'm sure the law states the local services should have taken him in, but they told him there's no room. He was terrified living outdoors, guessing illegal immigrants. Probably is scared of them. And Tuck says he had a pastor who held a local homeless program and tells him he was lucky, that you were lucky. I suppose, was I lucky? I chose not to abuse substances or commit crimes or look filthy. No, that's all choice. And Tuck says Vlad. Yeah. AKA or Dracula. Nickname Dracula or Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Temps. He eliminated all the homeless population in his country very quickly. He invited them all to a banquet. He went, city to city. He invited them to a big banquet and confronted them and said, hey, why should you do for yourselves? Why shouldn't your king, your government take care of you? Shouldn't you be taken care of? And everybody's like, yeah, woo, yeah. And everybody who was in agreement of being taken care of instead of taking care of themselves was locked in the building, and the building was burned down. So he burned all the homeless people in the country alive, locked in buildings, unless they disagreed with that tenet. Vlad was very strict. He didn't screw around. Brian made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. I'll take all the help I can get. Thank you again. There's some crazy stories about Vlad Temps. Crazy stories. There was because he would travel around. He would travel around with a huge cauldron and a gigantic frying pan to boil and fry people alive. They didn't screw with him. Nobody screwed with him. Everybody was terrified with him. The Muslim hordes that were ravishing Europe were afraid to cross his borders because he was so incredibly ruthless. There's one story that I read about Vlad. I know we're off topic, but I brought it up, where there was a guy who owned a shop that someone stole from his till. And he was like, hey, man, somebody took my money from my till, because he would go around and judge from village to village, right? And he told Vlad this, and he says, okay, he would find the person and burn them at the stake if they didn't return the money. I think that's how it went. I might be off on that. But the guy came back and the money was replaced in his till the next morning. And there was even a little extra. He was like, yeah, the money was all back this morning, and there's even a little bit extra there. And Vlad says, I know there was a little bit extra because after that person returned it, I had a little extra put in. And if you didn't tell me that there was extra, I was going to burn you at the stake. He was ruthless. He was absolutely ruthless. Oh, and by the way, someone asked to see a kitty, right? Come here, Granny. Can I borrow you, honey? Come on, Granny Smith. Okay. Granny Smith, really quickly, everybody. There she is. No, she says no, but she is indeed little Granny Smith. Very, very gentle animal. Very, very gentle animal. There's Granny Smith, everybody. Another one of our rescues. I'll put you back so you can finish your nap, sweetheart. Thank you. There you go. You're fine. But with that, I will go ahead and start wrapping things up because we are past the hour. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ScrewTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and that is at Coffee Talk Chat. I screwed them up again, at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University on YouTube, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. There you go, Moki. You're the one that wanted to see Kitty, right? Special thanks to Brian, who made a donation to the channel today, as well as H12, who sent something to the Walmart. Now I'm going to have to try to get out there in the. I can't get out there today, but I'll try to go tomorrow. I'll see if I can go tomorrow and pick that up. Very much appreciated. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will see